Yeah. So
Well,
again, I
thank you.
would like to welcome everyone to the breakout room number 2 to continue the conversation. I'm here to help uh, facilitate with some questions if they come through the chat. Um, we've got Kelly and Kim here from the League of Women in Government, and they can talk a little bit about the league if you like. I see June Mighty's in the room. If you have some questions for her, we can continue the conversation. Um, Let us know, was there something that you found truly inspirational today? Something that really took you by surprise? Do you feel inspired? Um, we're here for you. We provided this space so you can network and discuss the day. I see Kim is here from Cigna as well. She's jumped in the room. So you've got lots of resources at your fingertips today.
Thank you, Laura. Yes, so I know we have a few people here. I guess we can unmute since it's not that many of, I mean, it's not as many as it was earlier. So um, I see a lot of comments in the chat. So utilize the chat if you have questions. Robin Weaver, you were in that chat just blazing. Do you have anything to share with the group?
No, it's been a great production. I appreciate everybody's efforts and talents. One of the questions I would have for fellow attendees is, what do you need and what are you looking for? What can we work on providing?
So can you let people know who you are and what
Yeah,
role you
sure.
play in providing that?
Sure. Along with Kimberly, I'm on the Legacy Board in Illinois. That's our group to encourage women in local government at all levels. We don't restrict it to just the manager's office in Illinois. And I'm a senior advisor, which means I'm a retired member of ICMA that provides free volunteer assistance to members in service. So from interns and students all the way through retirement, we can listen to you vent. We can connect you with resources, ask you questions and assist, in any way. So it's one of the wonderful resources of ICMA along with state associations. We're in almost all the states and represent states that cover about 88% of the ICMA membership. Thanks for that opportunity, Kimberly.
Anytime, Robin. She has been a very great shoulder and ear of mine for many years. So thank you for sharing that with the group. And I can't stress enough how great that resource is that we have as ICMA members, regardless of where we sit in the organization. Anyone else have anything to share, feedback for the day? I thought this was really well done. I was very apprehensive about being on Zoom for this long, but it went by like so quickly. So any other comments or shared experiences you would like to discuss?
Kim, this is June. Could you share just a little bit more about the League of Women in Government?
Sure. So I have on multiple hats. So today I am a board member of the Midwest Representative for a League of Women in Government. It is a national organization of women. We are an ICMA affiliate organization as well. And what we do is provide resources. Mostly the cost of being a member is free at this time. And so we do workshops, we support local women organizations. So for instance, Robin mentioned the Legacy Project in Illinois. We've supported them. We supported the KU has a program which is a women's conference that we support. We've also support all types of different organizations throughout Colorado, Arizona, East Coast, as well as California. And so what we do is really just try to be there to continue to promote the profession. But we initially started with, we saw this 13% conversation happening with women in the city manager's office, not going to that top position, and how could we help support that? And it's expanded beyond that. I think we've seen that number in the time I've been engaged increase. Now we're also trying to look at how do we get those numbers up for women of color as well. And so we are making a concerted effort to work with our local jurisdictions and also with ICMA to really talk about what does equity mean for women and how do we support that effort. So this is one of the type of programs we support. We do different webinars as well, and just be a resource to our sister organizations, as I say.
All right. Thank you so much for that
Thank
additional
you,
info.
Jen.
Appreciate it. And
No,
thank you
and
all for the opportunity to be here today.
you did an excellent job. I mean, very great job today. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I see a comment in here in general that
Anna, this is
says,
Sandy Fowler. I'm with the city of Cedar Rapids. I think we met a year ago. I am trying to reach the director to talk about some mapping that's showing up on your website.
Sandy, I can't hear. Are you talking to us, Sandy? It's very hard to hear you.
I think she was on the phone. I just was able to, I just
Oh, okay.
clicked over. I was able to mute her somehow. I think I heard her say, yes, like it was a phone call. So I just,
Okay.
if she wants to speak, maybe she can re-unmute herself.
All right, great.
Yeah.
And so I like this opportunity. So I see there's some comments in the group chat. Is this all in our room or is this mixed with other rooms? I'm not really familiar with group chat when we break out.
It's our room.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it's our room.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? While I try to.
Well, there is a comment regarding, there's a question regarding mentoring programs, internal for city employees. I'm not sure, well, I work for the county, so don't hold that against me, but we had a program that we did that we started. We started a pilot program for emerging leaders. And part of that component, that program actually had a mentoring component to it, right? And we found it very beneficial, but in addition, we also had a coaching aspect. And so what we're going to be doing is breaking out that mentoring piece separate, where we have our legacy leaders, right, will actually be participating. So we're going to provide them coaching tips, guidance on how to best mentor the staff, and then we will actually expand that program across. Also, Ventura County, I found out probably in 2019 when I met with them, they also had a really good mentoring program that they had just started. But due to COVID and everything, I haven't connected. So there are some organizations that are doing some things for employees. So if you reach out to me or reach out to Ventura County, they may be able to give you some guidance on that.
Great, thanks, June.
I'd like to add too about the mentoring program. Since before I started in the role that I was in mid-management, and we've been exploring every which way to start a formal mentoring program, from topic-based to going even exploring with towns around us. And it just doesn't seem to come to fruition. And time and again, I've actually gotten, I think it was Bill that talked about more informal mentoring. That seems to be, even though I keep hearing from employees over and over again that they want a formal mentoring program, it just doesn't seem to be able to get off the ground, because people then turn and say, well, I actually connected with this person, or I connected with that person. And so sometimes I lean towards more formal mentoring, and sometimes I lean towards that more organic. And when people come to me, I try to encourage them to seek out people that even something that they want to learn more about, or the way they have seen them discuss their decisions or made their decisions, and start a conversation based on something that's really important to them and what they want to grow on. But the mentor, it's a struggle, I think, and some organizations, some municipalities have found, I think, great success. But I mean, I've been working on it probably for 4 to 5 years. I mean, I had my management fellow he worked a whole year on researching it, and it kind of fell dead in the water, because our organization, and I mean, like I said, the number one thing I'm asked for is, do we have a formal mentoring program? And yet we can't seem to, it's more the informal networks that I hear about, which I'm thrilled that people in our managers and are willing to do that. But we've had some struggles on whether really trying to get people to go outside our community, especially not to their direct supervisor. I know there was questions around your supervisor being a mentor. And I think I think sometimes that can be good and sometimes that can lead to issues, but I'll let other people talk.
That's really helpful, Kelly. And I've had a lot of the same experience. Really worked well with the Emerging Leaders Program, like June talked about, but I've had the same experience. Just really, the more tools and structure I put around it, mentoring programs that just seem to fall apart. So,
Did it seem like Maura and Kelly, you had difficulty getting people to agree to be mentors?
On both sides, I had people that seemed to be really interested in it. And then I had people that were really interested in being mentors, but we couldn't ever really formalize it. We would group people together or attempt to group people together for specific purposes. And it just kind of, they introduced them to somebody else that really fit their bill better or fit their needs or their interests better. And so it didn't seem, it just, yeah, for a variety of reasons. We've always had both sides very interested in doing it and very interested, even going outside and talking to other communities. We've had interest in doing that and trying to do like a cross town type of thing where some of our people would go to another town and some of their people would come to us. But it's just figuring out how to connect people that don't necessarily have a connection to begin with, whether it's a topic that they're interested in or a position they want to be in or fill in the blank for whatever the mentee is looking for, kind of thing.
Kelly, if I could jump in again, one of the questions I have, was it in a context of a specific framework? So say for example, we developed a leadership framework and the context of the mentoring program fit within one of those programs. So are you looking to just do it as just a standalone, or does it fit within, you remember when I was talking about alignment, does it align with an overall goal for the organization? What's the framework and context that it sits in? Now, one of the challenges that I did face was this. The group of individuals, we ran 12 people through this pilot program. There were specific individuals nominated to participate in this program, so it was different. There was a nomination process. They were a targeted group in terms of being emerging leaders within a certain classification. So again, there was some framework around it. Some of them really, they valued it, but the ones who did not benefit from it were those who didn't understand sometimes that a mentor is not somebody who necessarily is sitting in the seat of the job that you want, right? And so there were a couple of participants who really didn't benefit from it because they didn't understand it, and also because they said they didn't have the time to reach out and meet with a mentor. And so we had issues, some challenges there. But I found that for us, the success that we did have that and why we want to look at it again was because it sits in a broader context for the organization. And we had a list of mentors, we had a list of mentees. The mentees got to select the mentors, they had a discussion, and we had also done some training for the mentors as well as the mentees to sort of help and guide. And then we also did a focus group afterwards, because again, this was 2019. And got a lot of feedback from the mentors of what it is that we needed to do to enhance the program. So I'll be looking at that once we launch again. So that's my thought there.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's Kim Funderburk here from Cigna. So I've participated and we have launched programs similar to what you're speaking to, June, but it really was emerging leaders. or it was more defined. These are individuals that are looking to move to the next level. But one thing that we did differently, we actually did an assessment. I can't remember the tool. If I think of it, I'll certainly send it to you. But there was a tool that the mentees took, they accessed and responded, as did the mentors. And then we matched them rather than have them select. So it matched personalities and a few other things. So there was the connection there. And then the other thing is they did have to commit to, if you're going to participate in this, then you had to commit to meeting with your mentor, et cetera, as did the mentor, had to make themselves available. And then we got buy-in from whoever the immediate supervisors were to allow them the opportunity and time and, an investment in order to participate in the program. The last piece is we did have a broader structure. So yeah, they had to go to their mentor, but probably every quarter or so, we pulled everybody together and we brought in leaders from the organization and different, outside the organization to really speak to them. And it was intended to be a pilot. And it's interesting because it came together from, associates wanting to have more mentorship, and it has, continued through the years. I was actually one of the initial people in the pilot. And so it has continued through these years. So it's great.
Yeah. If you can, send me that assessment, if you don't mind. I
will
really appreciate that.
I will. And then I saw someone in the comments, I think it was Cammie from Iowa. I want to make sure we don't miss her question, because her point was more opportunities like today are needed for women in leadership and government. That today was a very inspiring session, but there's limited dollars for training in smaller cities. So I don't know if you want to address that.
Well, that's, I was just going to say that was something I was going to take back to the League of Women in Government. We have our retreat coming up, so that will be something we definitely will add to our agenda. Is how are we able to expand our ability to provide professional development, especially around issues that women face. One of the biggest things that I know, we talk about mentors, and that's great. I think that's important, and it's something we should achieve. But also, I think we need to talk about coaching and really how do we change our own mindset, because sometimes our own thoughts get in the way of us achieving this work. And a lot of it's just because we're all tired and sick of being tired. So, coaching to me, I mean, I benefit from investing my own money that I have the fortunate ability to do, which is not always the case, to get some external coaching to help me to navigate so that I wouldn't make things that be more tough, not tougher skin, because I don't think it has nothing to do with that, but more resilient in a different way than just understanding that we have the inability to sometimes change other people's thoughts. So how do we change our own? A lot of that, I think, is missed in our conversation. I think we are always trying to adapt to other people's ways of how they manage or how they engage versus people adapting to how we engage. And I feel that that is something maybe as a gender, our social norms have gotten us in the way of, and put us all in a, not all, but some of us in a situation where there are a lot of opportunities that I could have took, which will made it very uncomfortable for me, leaving the state, for instance, to move up faster in my career. But because of social norms, I have to take care of family. I have to do this. I have to do that. We don't really put ourselves first. So I'm just throwing that out there as we talk about mentorship. I think that's a part of it. But also, how do we change our own mindset to help us do that?
That is a big piece of that. And what we were trying to convey in the earlier session this morning was really the importance of having all three. So yes, it's important to have a mentor, but that coach, like I said, that's going to be objective when it comes to you as a person and your abilities, but also that person that's going to uplift you and, motivate you to advance forward. So it definitely is important to have a coach and an advocate. Because remember, when you're not in the room, there has to be someone advocating for you. So when there's that succession planning discussion going on, then who's in the room saying, hey, it's Kim's turn and these are some of her great ideas. And sometimes when you don't have a voice, then, it's unfortunate, but sometimes, women's voices aren't heard as readily as a man's voice may be in the room. So it is important for many people to have your voice in your back. So I did share, I think you should have that. I did share that link to the article that I found. It's not here, but it was in the earlier session. So I know that they will be sending it out. But there was an article that speaks to the importance of having all three. So thank you for bringing that up.
I'd also like to mention in Massachusetts, we actually, our local women leading government, we have taken it, we provide 3 events a year. We had our first conference last year to specifically target, we don't, you don't have to be a certain level in order to be part of the women leading government. So we try to gauge, we ask every, after every event, what else do you need? What else are you looking for to grow in your profession or grow where you are just in your actual position if you're not looking to move, but what tools do you need? And so we've really focused on meeting kind of women where they are and where they want to go, and looking at different professional development opportunities, as well as we've incorporated inspirational talks of women that have made it in different industries, and that sort of piece we have found has added something to our events, is having those background stories and how people worked to get where they are, how women have worked to get where they are. So we found great success in that, in supporting the women throughout Massachusetts.
I just want to quickly point out, someone had asked if there's any inspirational advice for women to advance in government, which of course we all know is largely dominated by men. And there are some great ideas that are coming up in the chat, such as resume review, cover letter review. And I do want to add on to Kim's discussion about having an advocate. And it is so important to have someone who can stand up and say, and someone kind of alluded to this in the chat, when men tend to speak over you, you need that advocate and that ally to go, whoa, wait a minute. Sandy was speaking or Melissa was speaking, and just make sure that you're included. That's that giant piece of diversity, equity, and inclusion is to make sure that that's occurring in your meetings. And if they're not doing that for you, be that person for another woman in the room. That's such an important piece to ensuring success for other women in the profession.
One of the things I want to add when you talk about that resume aspect is this. When I first started working with the County of Santa Barbara, one of my previous role was focusing on executive recruiting and development. And so it is interesting to see what happens behind the scenes in those discussions, how the interviews are done. And so sometimes I think what is important is really to prepare people not only for the resume, but also for the interview. There is really a catch-22 a lot of times, that balance between being seen as being too direct and too forceful versus the more demure aspect of things. And we just need to know that exists. And sometimes you can address it and sometimes you can't, because once you leave the room, you don't know how they interpret that. And where that comes into play is, like, say, for instance, people like me, or so in my role, I represented the county, but we would typically sometimes be using an outside recruiter as well for some of these higher level positions. And so we had to guide the discussion, especially when people make certain comments that are inappropriate, to let them know, no, that's not appropriate, in terms of that. So I just want to acknowledge that, one, it is a challenging thing, especially having that experience behind the scenes. So it's not just a resume, but it's also about how you show up in the interview and knowing in what ways to guide yourself and being comfortable. I think part of it is also learning, getting to the point where you're comfortable in your own skin. Because the other aspect is you do not want to be in a situation and in an organization where you just don't fit. And I've seen some people come to interview and they're trying to make it fit. And I could tell right off, just because of the role and position, that it just would not be a good marriage for that relationship and culture. So I think there's just a host of things that we have to consider when it comes to the interview process, the new roles, and moving up in our organization.
Hi, I just wanted to say I've seen a lot of things in the chat and agree with some of the people that it's been a journey for me. This is my 22nd year in law enforcement, local government, excuse me, and I applied for probably 12 to 15 positions in which I came out number one, number two in every one of them and didn't get any of the positions. And it was a really, really tough but yet I carried this and I've had it my entire career, and it just says, never, never, never quit. And I've shared this and actually lent it to other females in the process and just said, you know, we just can't quit. When you're in the room, in the meeting, when you're being talked over, or when you're applying to a position that you know that you're suited for, we just can't quit. We just have to keep going. And this is a perfect platform to get all of our kind of, not just frustrations, but our leadership and our inspiration to continue on this journey for inclusion. So I thank you all for allowing me to join you. So thank you.
I love that. Thank you. We're gonna have to steal that, make our own bracelet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really great. Anyone else have any words to share, advice, or just wanted to speak? So I'm looking at the comments just in the chat for those of you who are communicating in that way. I really like the comment. Now, mind you, I need my glasses because apparently I'm getting old because I can't see the screen. But I like the sign that says that Sharon shared with us in her office. I'm fighting for the girls that never thought they could fight. I'm here and I feel I have a responsibility to show other women that yes, it can be done. That is really motivating too, I think, especially something here in Evanston, Illinois. What was very interesting was that we had a recent recruitment for our city manager last year. And the top 3 finalists were all women. And I mean, I've never seen that in my career, that, you know, even maybe one. And sometimes you question if that person is there just because they needed to show some inclusion, but not taken seriously. But the fact that, you know, going through the process and their top 3 candidates were all women was, to me, and 2 being women of color, was just amazing. I felt like there is hope in this world, that there's going to be city councils who see that and doesn't think twice that being led by women is an issue. And so it's just something to think about. It's not all that bad. I mean, we have a long ways to go. Not saying we are done, but I do see that as being hopeful as newer generations are coming on to be a part of our city council. That inclusion is just part of life. It's not something they have to think about and, you know, have to like be told you need to do. And so I felt that was something to share. And I look at my office, and the majority of our office staff are majority women. I look at our leadership, you know, it's a great thing to see in supporting and advocating, but it didn't happen unintentionally. A lot of this was intentional, making sure people apply to things that you usually don't apply for, and giving them that opportunity to interview so they can show they're really have the skills and ability. But it's intentional. We have to be intentional. And so that's what I wanted to share with the group. I thought that was a uplifting comment.
One of the things I wanted to just throw out there and see if anybody wants to talk about is the, not just supporting each other as women as we move or want to move, but look, we've been talking a little bit more about we have, I don't know how it is in other parts, but we've a lot of the times executive recruitment firms that are running the searches for the town manager job. And also, like, we have a select board or whatever your form of government, but looking at the makeup of the boards and committees that we are looking to be hired from, and sort of educate, kind of going along the line of what Kimberly just said, that it should, like, normalizing that there should be women in that finalist pool, that it should, it's amazing, but we, getting to a point where it's typical that you would see more and more women in the finalist pool. So I don't know if we can, I think it's a large conversation to have around the boards or the hiring bodies that are doing that hiring, but I'd like to just open it up and see if anyone has had encounters with that or experiences around, if you have looked to move up, and what reception you've gotten from, or feedback you've gotten from those hiring boards around hiring women into the higher positions, or that sort of thing. That wasn't a run-on sentence. I don't know what was, but hopefully you got what I was saying.
Yeah, I think when you're going for the top job, the city manager, county administrator, whatever that top CAO job is, you're being hired by a council, not by professional managers. And council members typically do not have management experience. Typically, there are more men than women on the board. Typically, there's not a lot of minorities. Typically, they're in business or have small businesses. So in terms of preparing for the interview, preparing your paperwork, whether there's a recruiter or not, it's helpful to have numbers and percentages, because business people tend to think in those, whereas most of us have degrees in liberal arts and sciences and think of words. It's also helpful if you can get experience in, liaison with the Chamber of Commerce, or working on a project with the business community or the industrial park, so that you have some street cred, that you understand what businesses go through. Maybe it's a retail project or facade improvement downtown, so that you have what resonates with them. And you don't have to be the manager already to necessarily have that exposure and experience, but you can volunteer, or you can be, on those boards or liaison or in charge of projects that do that. And it gives you, I think, really step up to just having, you're good at budgeting and HR and those kind of things, which these are people that typically aren't too concerned about it. It doesn't resonate with their life experience the same way as interaction with the business community. And so I think that's helpful when we realize, and it kind of dawned on me in a flash at one point in my career, I was not applying to other managers, I was applying to a council, and it's a different audience. And so preparation in economic development, every council wants that. So the more exposure or real meat that you can get, in terms of your portfolio with economic development helps as well.
This is June. I think Robin makes a really valid point there in terms of the executive positions at that level, yes, are definitely going before in that city government would be the council. For county government is definitely a board reported position. And so you do have to think differently. I've been in some of those discussions. She's right on the point that usually there aren't a lot of women represented on the board. The perspectives vary. The conversations, depending on their constituents and what's important to them, vary. I think from what I've seen, just being behind the scenes and listening to some of the conversations, make sure that yes, for this on paper, you do demonstrate your skills, the numbers, even in terms of the budget, the size of the budget that you've managed, you know, over a period of time. How do you break that out? They were looking for a lot of the experience in that area, the ability, depending on what's going on in that county or that city, to really demonstrate that you're in tune with what's happening in that local area. Sometimes they're very resistant. They will, of course, they're open because the recruiter is going to bring them individuals from all over. But a lot of times what you'll hear when someone is coming from the outside is that that person may not understand their community. So they're concerned about that. So you want to be able to do your research to demonstrate that, yes, you do have some kind of inkling of what's taking place in that community and what's impactful to them. And if you come in and you don't have any inclination about that, yeah, you're kind of dead in the water. It just doesn't resonate with some. And then one of the other things I want to point out in working with the outside recruiting firms, I found working in that role that a lot of the departments weren't thinking about making sure that women were represented because they had gotten so accustomed to women not being there. So you also have the situation where women aren't applying for those roles. So, you know, and so the question is why? And so we literally had to insist that the recruiter, look, you need to find some females. You need to find, it's literally go out and hunt for some women of color, women, hunt for them, because they weren't necessarily coming to the table either. So it's a, what you call a push-pull, or however that term goes, but Robin is really right on point with a lot of that. But it was just so many different things, you know, but you just need to prepare yourself as best as possible. I wonder to myself, if I think about someone approached me about a HR director role, and knowing what I know, I'm like, do I even want to be bothered with that? And that role actually does report directly to the Board of Supervisors and not the administrator. So, you know, it's a variety of different things, but understanding all of that, just putting it all together, prepare as best as possible. How do you find an executive recruiter? There are several, well, it's only, I found them because I've worked with them, and a lot of times I didn't seek out the executive recruiter. It was, we had a list, and I got connected with one because they sought me out for a particular role. But there are several agencies, Ralph Anderson and Associates, there's CPS HR Consulting, there are the Hawkins Company, there's several others that are online that focus on government jobs. So probably just do a Google search. And of course, there's also job listings on ICMA as well for leadership, other leadership roles. So that's all I can think of. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that.
Well, last, I would say if you sign up to the League of Women in Government's web newsletter, you will get a listing to in your inbox on a monthly basis. So make sure you sign up. That we have always recruiting opportunities that we promote and encourage our members to apply for. I see the time. We are about 15 minutes almost left. Is there any other comments that we have not heard this afternoon? Questions that you want to put in the chat if you don't want to state them verbally? Thank you, Janice, for putting that in the chat. You all make some really great points, but June, I have a question for you. I mean, you and Robin maybe. I know, like, for me, I don't apply just because I just don't want to have to. I'm like always looking for the right fit. Is there such thing as a right fit? Is that just the mythical right fit is just what we say in our brains to not apply? Or is there something realistic about that? And especially when you're reporting to a county level or a city council, how do you know right fit?
Robin, do you want to go first?
Well, I kind of think of what I have to say as secondary to the main point. June, if you'll take the main query about how, the right fit, remember the research. And that was part of the reason the legacy group started in Illinois, was not only were women only 13% of the CAOs nationally, and now we're up to about 20% in the state and 16% nationally. But the research showed that women were not applying for jobs that they were qualified for. If there were 10 requirements in the job listed that you had to have experience or be fully aware of, men would apply if they only had 2. Whereas women felt that they had to be fully qualified, comfortable, experts in 10 before they would apply for a job. And that's a real problem. So part of what we do, and hopefully what you do, is gives others a nudge. You're good. You can do this. You didn't know XYZ before, but you learned it. You have all the skills to do all these things, maybe not the different expertise. So you need to go for that. So in terms of the right fit, if you want to look for a job and it's got the 4 things you're best in or nothing that you're totally unfamiliar with, then that's really limiting yourself. And I think we all have to guard against that. That's clearly shown by the research. However, in terms of a good fit, you don't want to be in a culture that's not a good fit for you. You don't want to be doing things that you don't like doing. If the emphasis is on finance and TIF districts and a lot of number crunching and spreadsheets, and or it's isolating versus out with people and you're a people person, or it's HR and you hate HR and you can't stand negotiations, you don't want to do that. And June, maybe you can give a better fit thing.
No, I think Robin, you did a great job at that, especially when it comes to fit. Fit for me, what I will do is my next role in another organization, I'm going to try to find out as much about that organization and that organizational culture as possible to see if it really aligns with who I am and what I may want to do, right? Mm-hmm. So that's sometimes what I mean by actual fit. The other thing that I want to say, which you spoke to before, is the aspect of coaching. Now, I didn't learn this from a public sector leader. I learned this from a private sector leader. I encountered this lady that someone recommended. Her name is Lillian Dukes. She's an engineer. Well, there's not a lot of female engineers. She works in the airline industry, which is even more uncommon. So she's used to, and she's African-American female. So she's used to not being represented. But one of the things that Lillian has is a cadre of people that she has been working with over the years. Some of them are, and one in particular is a coach. And this coach knows her. So when she is actually preparing for a role or to interview for a role, she works with that coach to help prepare for that role, to find out as much information about the role as possible. What will people want to know at that level? And she prepares. And that was something that I wasn't familiar with until I encountered her. And so at this point, she interviewed for a senior VP role at another organization. But part of her preparation process was working with her coach to help prepare her for that. So when you talk about mentoring and coaching, mentoring can help. It just depends, can help with certain things. But that coaching component is a big piece. And the advocate aspect, yes, the advocate was able to share something, but it was the coaching that helped her to sort of land. So I would say, research the organization. What Robin said is also true. A lot of times women will not apply for the position because they don't do all of it. And what I find, what I've found and what I've learned by watching the interview process is that sometimes it's because we're looking at it like, okay, well, I didn't do this, so I don't have the skill. But no, you haven't expanded the different ways that skill can be used. And so that's something a coach will help you to identify. And even with Beth's scenario, Beth, there could be something actually going on that you're probably not responding to, but they may not be giving you the feedback to really help you to make the adjustment. you know, because I've encountered and I've seen that at work as well. So I think what Robin said is on point, but I also say when you're going for that senior level executive position, get a coach. Pay for a coach. When I came into this role at this county, one of my colleagues at the time, she said, they are not helping us, and they should be helping us and pay for us to have coaches. I said, I'm gonna tell you what was told to me. It's your career. You get a coach and pay and invest in yourself to move forward. And so that's the kind of thing that I think is important. Look, yes, expand your horizons. Those skills can go in more ways than you actually think. And it's your ability to do that and to expand that's going to make you a great leader. And it's not just being able to check off the boxes. Sometimes they can't stand that either. When a guy just come in there, oh, I've done this, I've done that. Guy walks out, they're like, oh, he saved the world. And I sit there thinking, yeah, he made it sound like he saved the world as well. You know, so let's just step up to the plate. And the other thing that I'm learning from the coach, when the recruiter contacted me about this position, I was thinking to myself, you know what, I don't want to be bothered. I don't know if I want to go to this county. I don't, you know, I contacted 2 colleagues, again, the coach and executives who are in a higher level position than I am. They said, June, it's not going to hurt you. It's going to help you. Go for it. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And then see what happens. So it's what Robin said, but it's also just expanding it. You have it, just how can you use it? Get a coach.
I think the great advice, especially it's your career, you know,
yeah, it's your career.
Make that investment, whether it's
Make
time, energy, contacts, you know, paying for a coach or not. I think, you know, rejection is hard. Beth was, you know, vulnerable to say, I've applied, you know, 15 places, I've been 1 or 2 and didn't get it. Rejection hurts. And so sometimes people hesitate a little to go for something. We also get comfortable in the jobs that we have. We like the people we work with. We know what we're doing. We're on top of things. We're making a difference. All those kind of things that tend to hold us back. I remember having coworkers being shocked that I was leaving because I was so committed to the organization. And it's like, well, that's always been the plan. You know, that's my career. But, you know, you're not going to know everything about the next organization or the things. You really have to be comfortable with some change. And that's hard. I had a lot of angst leaving organizations that I had worked, you know, for and with, been committed to. And so sometimes that can hold us back a little bit in terms of going for the next step. And we just have to be aware of it and check in with ourselves, I think.
Thank you both. Since both June and Robin mentioned me, I'll just say that all of those positions were with the same agency. And I finally, when 2 or 3 oral boards had the assistant city manager on the oral board, and I came out number 1 for both of those positions, I asked to speak with him. And I said, I really need feedback. What could I have possibly done better? And he sat there and he leaned back and he got forward and he said, honestly, there's absolutely nothing you could have been better at. There's nothing. And very perplexed, I said, can you then answer me this? How do I come out number 1 and actually get the job? And he said, you're probably not going to like what I'm going to say, but I think that people have to leave the city in order to get ahead and then come back. And I said, so you're saying that I'm a great employee, that I have everything that I need, that I have the experience, but you're suggesting that I leave? But it was that conversation that exactly what you said, Robin, in which after 18 years, I left that agency and I'm now part of command staff. But it took that, and the first probably half dozen were very emotional. Why don't they like me? Why, you know? But then it was, no, never quit. I know that I've got, you know, I know that I've got what it takes. And, you know, so I finished my master's. I did, you know, I just kept expanding and outstretching that networking as well. And, but it sometimes really is that what you guys have been talking about. It's that leadership team as to whether or not they want to change. Or if it's going to be the good old boys society. And I, unfortunately, there are some leadership teams they don't want change. And so it's kind of infiltrating that and making those changes that I think is the hardest sometimes. But I love this forum so that we can all talk about ways to get in there. So thank you both.
You're so welcome.
Well, Laura, I know we're getting close. I can now see that my 15 minutes was actually 20 minutes. So I need my glasses. This is something I realized. Is there any like parting or advice anyone wants to give or inspirational like tidbits we want to share before we close this? I don't want to end this conversation because honestly, this is going to be the bright spot of my day of getting to meet you all and having the opportunity to learn and just really just feel and receive the love that I feel across this platform. We have each other's back. I mean, one thing you should know that we're all here for each other, supporting each other. It's not a competition. It's about supporting and making sure someone that looks like us is sitting in the top seat, and if we can monopolize that, throughout the United States, that's a wonderful thing to have happen. So please share your email. I don't know, Laura, we're going to be able to provide people with a list of who participated today at all? Do you know?
Everyone is listed in the platform. So if you go back to the tab and click on my profile, and then you can click on connect, and you can connect with folks that way, and request a connection. I'll have to verify how long the platform will be up. If there's someone from ICMA who can hop on and answer that.
Okay, well, we'll figure out something, but whatever that might be, it says 24 hours, Bev says 24 hours. So, this is some great feedback. Maybe this is something we need to do a couple times a year. But we will talk through that with ICMA and League of Women in Government. So I don't have anything else. Any other parting words before we close this session today?
I thought this was excellent. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Ditto to what Kelly said. That's so true.
And thank you for the many voices that were in the chat. Even though we may not hear you verbally, we saw you, and we thank you for your comments and support of each other. With that, I don't know if we have anything else left to say. I know we're a couple minutes early, but
yeah, we can hang out for about 5 more minutes and then we'll be done. I did see, and I apologize if I've missed a chat that's come through, but I did catch one that said the platform will be coming down tonight. So
okay.
There's a quick way to connect with anyone in here. Feel free. I know the recording will be up. I don't know the time frame for that because our platform vendor will have to spend some time doing some editing to the videos.
Just a observation, today's ICMA newsletter included a webinar coming up. I don't have the date in front of me, but 3 women leaders in terms of their, I think it's courageous voices or something. And I signed up for it, but going through my calendar while I'm on this isn't ideal. So maybe Laura can find that. But if you look on ICMA under webinars, there's a courageous women, and some of our past ICMA presidents are part of that. There's 3 women. So that may be a nice inspiration, a little bit of history. And I think knowing the women involved, some hope as well.
Yes, I just dropped that into the chat, the link
Great,
for
thanks,
that.
Laura.
So yeah, please register for that. And again, we've got our Coach Connect platform. I know I'm going to plug that in real quick. It's free for everyone. You get 12 credits a year. ICMA members and non-members can connect. You can find a coach. You can be a coach. So please consider looking at our coaching resources on our website at ICMA. Our regional conferences are coming up. If you've had an opportunity to register for that, you pay one registration fee and you get access to actually 6 regional conferences. So each region, and then we're having an international component also on March 25th, which will be great. There will be some roundtables there, Ask a Deputy column, forum roundtable, and an Assistants and Deputies roundtable. Of course, I'm the liaison for the Assistants and Deputies Advisory Board. So always here to support the amazing things that our members are doing in local government. A call for presentations came out for our annual conference. Of course, we don't know yet if it's all virtual or if it will be hybrid, but please submit some session ideas for that, presentations, anything that inspired you today, if you'd like to continue the conversation and do some presentations on that. Always welcome. If you liked this event, perhaps this is something we could hold again at the annual conference. Kimberly, I'm looking at you like, oh, I love this today. So any positive feedback is wonderful. Please let us know how we can support you and our initiatives to support gender balance in the profession.
Thank you. That was a lot. Appreciate that, Laura. I mean, we will definitely do that, and I will definitely do that. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I don't know about you, but we're finally getting weather that's more like it should be. And enjoy it. Go outside, take a walk, move. Mental health is important. So thank you all for being here today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes, and one shout out one more time to Cigna. Thank you for sponsoring the event, and thank you to the League for partnering today. We really appreciate the support and your time today.
Yes. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you all. And wonderful name, beautiful name, Kimberly.
Yes, spelled the right way. Controversy. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Again, happy International Women's Day.
Yes,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.